Hello and welcome to the Elsie Black Oral History Project. My name is Eileen Hyland. This project is all about sharing and preserving the real life stories of people living in social housing in Ireland, with a focus on fluid housing. We want to highlight the everyday experiences, the memories and the voices of residents, the stories that often go unnoticed. It's about recognising the value of these communities and making sure their stories are heard and remembered. Today is the 14th of May 2025 and we're talking with Claudia White, who lives at Clann in Killarney, County Kerry. So Claudia, would you like to just introduce yourself and tell me maybe where you were born and when you were born?
September 42 in San Francisco, California.
Okay, and you were born in California. So tell me a little bit about your family at home. Who was there, mom and dad? Were there siblings?
Mom and dad and one sister, who's 2.5 years younger than I am.
Okay. And obviously it's different in America than here, so these questions are probably maybe not so relevant, but what sort of a house did you grow up in? Was it a private house? Was it a council house? Do they have?
We started out in an apartment, and then my parents bought a lot in Marin County, which is across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. And my dad's dad, my dad's sister and her partner, my dad's brother, so his uncle, and probably others, did the whole house from digging the foundation to laying the blocks to roofing. And so they started that, I think, in 1948. And that September, my mother's parents said, "It's silly for you to pay rent for a couple months. Just move in with us." And they had, if I was 6, my aunt was 10, a 2-bedroom flat in San Francisco. So we now have 4 adults and 3 children. It was a little crowded. In June, my grandfather said, "When she's finished with school this year, you're out of here." So my sister and I contend we spent 2 months in a tent across the street from where we were building, friends of my parents.
Yeah.
My mother said it was only 2 weeks. My sister says that's because mom and dad moved into the house with Cliff and Dawn. And only us kids were in the tent. So eventually we moved into that house. And then when they put on a dining room and a 3rd bedroom, they had contractors do it.
Right, so it was a big job.
So I lived there until I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had roots down there. Yeah.
And then 3 months in San Francisco, and then married back in Marin County. And then when our kids they were all under 7, we moved to Oregon, and I was there 38 years, I think.
Wow.
And then I moved here to Killarney.
Okay. So moving from Marin County up to Oregon, was that a big cultural change?
Oh, God, yes. My
My
mother thought we'd left the country because the children didn't get Easter break. They got spring break in March that coincided with the high school state playoffs for basketball. Things didn't close on Easter. My mom worked for a bank where they closed the 3 hours on Good Friday, as well, of course, as Saturday and Sunday anyway. And so she felt we'd left America altogether.
And how did you adjust to it? Was it good move for you?
No. I did not. It took me 20 years to decide I was going to stay in Klamath Falls.
Okay, so what was different?
But it was good. It was good. It's what I say is the people that lost the Civil War moved to Southern Oregon. And I was raised San Francisco Bay Area liberal Democrat, and these people were just too conservative.
Wow.
Then I got a job at the college, and people were more like-minded, and a lot of us were Bay Area people, and there were people that wanted to go to plays or wanted to go to jazz festivals, so that helped.
Okay. Wow, you stuck it out for a good 20 years then, not really sure.
Oh, well, I had a husband and children.
Yes.
And we had foster kids. I mean, you know, there are days, but that's not part of this story.
That's a whole other story. So I suppose the most interesting thing for us here is how you ended up in Ireland. Do you want to tell me a bit about how it came up?
I came over on walking holidays, and the first one was Dingle Way, so we came into Killarney, and I said, oh God, if I can ever live there, I'm going to. So I came over on 10 walking holidays over the years. I would stay longer, either before or after or both, and then the first one was in 1999, and my husband passed in 2002, and so then I started staying longer, really like 3 months or a month, and I tried Galway, Cork, even Limerick, and and each time it was Killarney. The pull was to Killarney, so I got everything together and moved over.
Wow, that's a huge move.
I moved over with the intention of staying 3 years. I still have stuff in storage at my son's. And I knew within 2 weeks I wasn't going back.
Wow. So what was the big difference here?
It feels like home. For the first place since San Francisco, it feels like home. I don't know any other way to describe it.
It's like you found your...
The memoir I've been working on forever, about the first 3 years, starts out with, at 65, I ran away from home.
Right.
That's my first line. So
it was like freedom for you.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
Following your own dreams maybe for the first time.
Yeah.
Gosh. Very brave. I can't even imagine. People, but that sense of you finding home here is amazing. That you felt.
It does. The ancestry of Irish is quite a way back.
Right.
But it does. And I've been to Scotland, which my dad's grandparents and older aunts and uncles were all born in Scotland. My grandfather was actually born in San Francisco. But, so that's a much closer generation. But Scotland didn't feel like home. Now, my sister feels an affinity for Scotland.
Right.
We're very American. I think we're Irish. She thinks we're Scottish. And my kids think they're Italian because their grandmother on their dad's side, his family was from Italy. So it's that American mixture.
That's the beauty. You can pick.
You can be whatever you want.
Right, okay. So I'll just run through a few more questions
Sorry.
here. No, not at all. That's wonderful. Yes, absolutely lovely. Okay, so the bit about when you moved in here. So you moved over to Ireland.
Yeah.
What was your housing situation at the start?
I kept answering ads in the Advertiser by phoning from Oregon, and nobody wanted to wait for somebody to show up. So finally one man said that he would check with his housemate. So I moved into a house share over on Scranton Mews with, how old was Leo? Leo was the wine steward at Gaby's, and I'm sorry, her name just went.
Don't worry.
She was a waitress at Ross, and also a very good seamstress.
Right.
And he was from London, and she was from Germany, and I was from America. So we were quite an international little household. And she was dating an Irishman, so so that it worked. Although I'd been on my own for 6 years by then, so it worked, especially because they were gone at night. And but about 3 months later, I moved over in June. In October, I moved to an apartment on Beach Court across the street from Little Tesco, which was very convenient because it was not an Express then, it was a real Tesco. And you could get across and back during commercials on the TV. It was so convenient. And of course,
perfect.
The post office is around the corner.
Right.
O'Connor's newsagent's next door. O'Brien's was actually underneath my apartment. And then I wanted a 2-bedroom because people were visiting.
Of course.
And so I moved to Mangerton View. And then visitors stopped coming. But I moved to into a 2-bedroom Mangerton View, and I finally went to housing, and he said, "What took you so long?" And I said, "Oh, I thought I should get citizenship first." And he said, "No, you're fine. I was a citizen by then." He said, "No, you would have been fine. I didn't realize how generous Ireland is." So you need to be a permanent resident, I guess,
Okay.
to go on social housing. And I was over 70 by then, so jumped the list.
Right.
And just as my landlord on Mangerton View was raising the rent, Clwyd said, "Would you like an apartment?"
My goodness.
And except for the house when I was a child, this is the first brand new. Even though the building wasn't new, the apartments were.
Right.
And first time furniture, appliances, everything, I got to choose. Nobody else got a vote.
That's a great feeling to be totally in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
So how
little
were you-
unnerving though not to have somebody to bounce ideas off of too.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. So you went on, you got your citizenship, which
Yeah.
does that take a long time? Is there a bit of a process to that?
It is. You have to go to immigration 5 years in a row and pay your money and get your stamp and talk to the girl and show her you have an income and that you have. It's much more difficult now for Americans than it was. In fact, that's what pushed me. She said, "We're both going to get in trouble if you don't go for citizenship because, the rules have changed so much."
Okay.
I had probably the year before I'd gone online and they'd said not enough forms, right? It says date and you expect it to be today's date, right? Well, you've been to immigration 2 days before, so it shows that you've only been stamped for 2 days instead of a year. So when you backdate it, instead of putting today's date on, you put the date that you went to immigration, then it shows that it was a year to a year to a year. Finally copped onto that. Sent in the form, sent in the money, went to Dublin. They have no idea if 2,000 people are holding up their hands, but we did. And then they have the same, because I went with a friend here, they have the same speakers, tell the same thing, but they have a band and the flags,
Okay.
and then they push you to get your passport.
Right.
Now, why they don't just make it $100 more and have you do your passport at the same time? It's all the same paperwork again. And the guard thing about every place you've ever lived.
Forgot the clearance.
Yeah, and that, all over again. So they could simplify it by that
Yes.
one step. But,
Absolutely.
but
You
other,
stuck with it.
yeah.
You were committed.
Yes,
Yeah.
now I have an Irish passport and I can go to Canada without showing that I'm an American unless I open my mouth.
Okay. So all through this time, so that was about 5 years then.
Well, actually it was 7.
Was it?
Well, no, it was more. I came in 08. I didn't get my citizenship until 17.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you.
But you can in 5 if you
Right,
do it
right.
right the first time.
So when you applied then for housing, did you have to wait long to get a house here?
If I did it in 17, I was here in 20.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you
He
sorry.
said, because of my age, it won't be this year, but it'll be next year. And it was actually the year after. So, I read stories about people and I have friends stuck. Clwyd has got to be the best in the country as far as I can tell.
Really?
I don't know if you talk to people in other housing things, but I have 3 friends that should actually go to the newspaper. 2 of them about their social housing, and 1 because of his neighbors. But it's all but they're all housing
Yeah.
issues. Yeah.
So you've got good things to say about here.
Oh yeah.
So go back to so 3 years seems like a short enough
It
time.
is.
And was it just out of the blue? Did you have to go for interviews with Clwyd?
They phoned and said, "Would you like to come for an interview?" And because there's no gardens and no pets, they were getting torn down quite a bit. So they were happy when somebody said yes. And they were delighted, and the interview was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long after that then did they?
That was December, and we were probably before Christmas, of course. And we were in here the last week in January.
Amazing.
And the second week in March was lockdown. So we did not get to know our neighbors because we were still basically moving in and stuff we didn't have coffee morning. We were talking about this yesterday for at least a year.
Okay. That was a tough time to move.
Or anything. Yeah.
It kind of took the shine off it a bit for you all, didn't it?
It didn't for me so much, but it did for a lot of people. Yeah.
So you still had contacts and friends and things?
Yeah.
You've been here for quite a while at that stage. In Ireland.
Yeah, 12 years by then.
My goodness.
So yeah. This is coming up on 17. It'll be 17 years pretty soon.
Wow. And you're still
Couple
here.
weeks. Still here. As Elaine Page, and I'm still here.
Okay, so how you came to live here sounds fairly straightforward. Some people have big struggles and have to work really hard and hound people and get counsellors and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have that?
No, when Donald Grady died, though, people went into mourning here because he had gotten a number of the people that live here, apparently their housing.
Was he like a counsellor?
He was town councillor, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you were able to bypass all that.
Yeah, just
Amazing.
floated right in. My life is sort of like that. I just float through. Things happen and it doesn't bother me, and so.
You must have done something good in a previous life.
Or I'm going to in the next one, something.
Okay, so your first impressions of the area then when you came to see it?
It's really nice, and everything was brand new, and it was turmoil, getting flooring and appliances. It was a busy time, and I don't remember what impressions.
You weren't obviously turned off by it anyway.
No.
You were grateful and glad to be coming here.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So settling in then was you had to fit out the place yourself?
Yes. Yeah, there's a council grant, and it's expensive to move even into social housing because there's a council grant, and that would either have covered the flooring or the appliances, but not both. Now, some already had flooring and carpet, but some of us just had concrete. So, now I've got floors like this.
So are you in this block here?
I'm over in apartment 16.
Okay, and is that on the first floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking about that earlier because I ran into one of the other women who smokes at that. Oh dear, don't do that. They seem to have put the smokers on the second floor, which are the first floor here, which is really great because they're out of the way and we don't have to walk through it to get in and out. Whereas if you go to the first floor, it just hits you sometimes. Not always, but sometimes it just hits you how many people smoke up there.
Goodness, never thought of that.
No, and I don't know. I was going to ask John next week if they did that on purpose.
Things have changed so much for you over the years, but would you be able to tell me what home means to you? Do you consider this home now?
Oh, yeah.
And what does that mean to you?
That's a good question. I don't know, where you're comfortable on your own or where you can have people in, where you
Probably lots of aspects to it.
Yeah, where you can live your life as you want to live it.
And you feel that's different here than when you were in America? You feel more free here?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think that people are more tolerant maybe here?
Yeah.
Really?
I do. I don't have any of it on right now, but I'm part of the Killarney for Palestine group. And I usually have a flag in front of my door and an article, and I've got the badges, and I didn't take anything with me when I went to the States last year.
Right, yeah.
And I'd have to clear my phone if I went into the States this year.
That's kind of sobering, isn't it?
Part of that is just because of who's running the country there now, and that could change.
Yeah.
Soon, not soon enough. and I also firmly believe you don't live anywhere because of the government. You live where you want to live despite the government. Because there's not a government in the world that you would go, oh yeah, they're doing a really good job. Let's live under them.
Yeah. But you see a lot of boxes are ticked for you living here.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds like.
yeah. They're very generous with their older people.
Yeah, it's a good country for old people, in fairness.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So what difference did it make to you to get a home from Clwyd at that point in your life? You were pretty well established.
Now I'm traveling. I'm paying for my kids, for us to meet places. It's some experiences. You're not getting anything when I die. We're spending it all now together. But because what I was putting out for rent went so much lower, and actually so did the utilities.
Wow.
Usually fuel allowance and household benefits will cover all my utilities. Not sure it's going to happen this year, but mostly, yeah. So,
That's
you know,
fantastic.
you have, I had a friend, well, I had somebody stay with me over the weekend, and they're in the San Francisco Bay Area, and their mortgage is $1,700 a month. I mean, that's almost my whole income, you know. So, whereas half my income now stays in the States and goes for travel, and half comes here and I live on it. So,
Wow, brilliant.
yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so your housing conditions have obviously improved a bit then as time has gone on.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your biggest challenge to coming here? What was your biggest difficulty? Were you kind of put off by moving into such a big community that was already here?
No, because like I said, it was locked, so we didn't even realize that Oakwood and Holy Cross were part of us, you know, and there wasn't anybody else here. So we all moved in from the end of January to the middle of February, the first group.
Oh, okay.
Into this building. So there weren't people in other apartments saying, "Oh, look at the newcomers."
Right. So you all came in together.
Yeah, we all
must
came.
have made it a lot easier.
I think it probably did. Yeah.
So have there been any major obstacles or difficulties moving in? Nothing.
No. It all went smoothly.
And do you think there's a stigma associated with social housing in Ireland?
There doesn't seem to be. There is in the U.S. There really is. But here, and if you talk, like I worked in a library, others have been musicians, guides at Ross Castle. I mean, people's backgrounds are not, we were on welfare all our life and now we're in social housing the way you would be in the U.S. It's, my income doesn't make it, so they moved me in.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually.
And when Thatcher was, whatever she was in England, and I don't know who was in charge here, they were sold off. You know, if you lived in the council, you could buy it.
Yeah.
I have a friend over on Dalton that her parents did that, and she's in the house still. And I think that happened to those across the street too. But they're beautiful buildings. You know.
And do you have that option to buy here, or is it purely rent?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What I want is an option of a empty apartment so I can have guests without moving an extra bed into the sitting room.
A bit more room, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that. Okay. So you don't really feel you've ever been judged yourself or treated differently because of your social housing? Really?
Long time ago. What did I say? Oh, I think I said I had the travel pass or something, and someone said, some young woman said, "Oh, I wouldn't mention that. It's, you know, taking advantage or whatever." But
yeah. Okay, that's cool. So what sort of a community is here? Is there a sense of community in this place?
We do coffee mornings, and we do bingo one Monday and games the alternate Monday. The bingo and the games get between 5 and 10 people. Coffee morning gets between 20 and 30. We had a meeting with Steve, who's CEO or whatever he is of Clwyd Clan. And there were 20 people, and he was very impressed. But there's 120 units, and I forget how many are double. So maybe 130, 140 people. And that doesn't seem like a lot to me, but apparently for this, for socialization, this is 20's about the tops.
I guess there's lots of reasons why people
Yeah.
will or won't
Yeah.
get involved. And
Yeah.
I suppose you just would worry for older people who maybe might feel isolated or,
Yeah.
but like having
We're
coffee
told
morning,
not to push though.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And of course you don't want to.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons, isn't
Yeah.
there, why people would or wouldn't. But I suppose having the coffee morning and having good communication so people
Yeah.
know what's on,
Yeah.
you're really opening the door, aren't you?
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. We can't drag them.
No, no. And would you get any sense of that community spirit here? Like, if do people check on their neighbours or make sure?
We do, and like one of the women upstairs and I have traded keys. And there must be others that have done that, and there's one that a couple of us visit because she just does not go out.
Yeah, that's nice.
She feels the stigma. Because she had a business in town which she lost, and she says people say, "But you have money. How come you're here?"
So how important has the sense of belonging been for you?
It's good. Yeah, I'm secretary of the residence committee, so yeah, it's nice to belong and run into people in town that you know from wandering around. And we've got have you been over to the polytunnel and the raised beds and stuff? And that's so yeah, the interaction's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could send a message to the decision makers or the developers, what would it be? What could they do to make things better? Do you think this type of housing is good and we need
Yes.
more of it?
But they need to think about, like, all the plugs are on that wall and there's nowhere to plug it in over here. And the two radiators, like my radiator blocks where my refrigerator should be.
Oh.
And probably I only need one, and it should probably go up. But they're asking those questions on the Craig and the Negrick Zoom meetings now about what should they be telling the engineers and the designers. So
Great. So you
yeah.
feel you have a say.
And when we say those things, which seem, and then one of the women's in a wheelchair, and I'd like to be able to take a shower by myself, and I'd like to be able to reach my stovetop, and those are real issues.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
But like here, all our doorways and our bathrooms are huge because they're wheelchair accessible, and just so that we can live here beyond breaking that hip or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So there has some thought has been put.
Yeah.
There's always things, and it's great that you feel there's a channel to get that information, get that heard.
Yeah.
And do you feel
we brought up, somebody here brought up free phone number. Steve said he'd never heard that complaint before. Apparently in June we're going to have a free phone number, because some people do a plan where it's you top up by 20 and you use your minutes. So if you're on hold with Dublin to lodge a repair or something, you could be out of your credit on your phone right away. So we started that here, and it looks like it's going to go for the nation. So we're pretty proud of ourselves.
Great. Movers and shakers, for sure. That's great. But it must feel good to feel that you're in an organisation that actually listens as well.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Clann
does. Yeah, they are, as far as I can tell, they're the best housing authority in the country.
Wow. That's great to know. That's great to know. So for decision makers then, more plugs, a little bit more thought. And
or like, see in back of you, there's 3 in a row over there, but there isn't anything over here. So if you wanted a lamp for this chair to read,
yeah,
it's like hotel rooms.
Yes, I guess. And you think this type of development is a good way forward?
Yeah.
Is it important that it's all age friendly? Does that make a difference?
See, age friendly doesn't mean as much to me. I like being able to hear the school kids.
Right.
I'm not afraid of teenagers. I do know some people who are, or young, say 18 to 22-year-olds, but I've never been, well, that's not true. The last time I went to Dublin, up until the last time I went to Dublin, I've never been afraid anywhere in Ireland. Now, I won't wander around city centre, Tralee or Limerick at midnight,
Sure.
But I will here. But we were in Dublin, and there were 2 on O'Connell Street. There there were two groups of teenage boys coming, and we got caught in the middle. I don't think they even knew we were there.
Wow.
They were so focused on each other, and it looked like it was, and we just moved, and it was like 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's the first time though that I've been, and that could happen any city, as far as I can tell. You know?
Cool, great. So the last question is: any funny stories about this place for your experiences here? Anything that
As soon as you leave, I'll probably think of something.
Yes, I should give me that one in advance so you can think about it. So is there anything else about living here that you want to add or that I've forgotten?
I don't think so. You can tell them we don't like the shake up in how they're doing the scheme managers, and losing Denise and stuff. You've heard that a lot, yeah.
Yeah, which is lovely for Denise, but yeah, I can understand it. It's so important, I think, for people to have somebody who...
We knew John was going to be here Tuesday and Friday and every other Wednesday, and now we don't have a clue. The hours are down from the door. There isn't any indication of when he may or may not be here.
So you can't plan to...
No. And okay, so as secretary, I do the notes from the meetings, and we want them to go to everybody, and I don't want to use up all my ink and paper. So I make one copy. Actually, I just emailed it to him last time and asked him to
distribute it?
I'll distribute to make 120 copies, and then there's 3 of us that distribute one to each of the units.
Right.
But just having him be in the office where that can be done and left in my mailbox or at my door can take 4 or 5 days. And one time so far, I wanted it right away because Ingrid was coming, and I wanted people to know that Ingrid, the biodiversity person, was coming in 2 days, and we didn't get it out in time. That kind of not no reliability anymore.
That's worth mentioning for sure. Okay, well, I think that's everything.
Okay.
And is that okay with you?
Yes, because I'm watching this real